The next speaker speakers don't really need much introduction. Barber Osgerby, their multidisciplinary portfolio encompasses furniture, lighting design, product design, as well as art and architectural scale projects. They are both, Edward Barber and J. Osgerby, designers for industry, royal designers for industry, and are past recipients of the Jerved Applied Arts Prize. Both are honorary doctors of the arts, and Osgerby is honorary fellow of Ravensbourne. The pair has lectured internationally, and their work is held in permanent collections, and I'm very pleased to say in the Victoria and Albert Museum it is on permanent display, in the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York, as well as in the London Design Museum and the Art Institute in Chicago. In 2013, they were both awarded the OBE for services to the design industry. Please, Ed and Jay.
Wow, better be good now.
No pressure. Right, I think the most important thing is that we're quite quick, right? That's the main thing. And this is quite unusual for us, because normally we're here talking about, well, normally not here at all, actually. Normally when we speak, we tend to talk about our authored work. That's the Barber Osgerby side of things. But we are, perhaps we should talk about this first.
Yeah, this is not ours. The image on the left is the interior of the Ronchamp Chapel by Le Corbusier. And for me, it encompasses everything that's brilliant about an interior, because you've got this incredible volume of space. You've got rich colours, textures, handcrafted, the tactility of all the materials, like the wooden pews that you sit on are so beautifully smooth and crafted. So for me, it encompasses absolutely everything of a brilliant interior.
Joe? That was very good. Yeah. And I, on the other hand, chose this incredible installation by Richard Wilson, which I'm sure everyone is familiar with. And this, for me, was an important part of my growing up and my education, because I had been studying furniture and industrial design, and then having seen the impact you can make in such an almost binary way on someone's reaction to space, it's made me change to do interiors and architecture at the RCA Diner. So what do we do now, Ed?
So from one extreme to another, we are very much the sort of analog people, I would say. We like making things, crafting things. This is an image of a studio, just to give you a flavour of how it feels. The interior of our studio is also a very important part of the way we work. We like to have a lot of clutter, a lot of objects, a lot of prototypes around us to make us feel, I don't know what, it makes us feel secure, I don't know, something, it sort of makes us relate to the physical object.
It's also important to us that we keep referring to things, sort of creative conversations which don't necessarily become a thing, but they're something which we often refer to, and we always have this feeling that an empty desk is an empty mind, and so it's our way of justifying a really messy studio, I think. So the primary purpose of us being here today is to talk through a project that we finished, completed in 2013, in September, which was the Ace Hotel in Shoreditch in East London. I'm sure many of you have been there. Ace, why don't you talk about the brand of Ace, Joe? Shall I? Well, I guess the reason we're here is to talk about a case study, and it's actually quite unique, I think, in today's, or at least in the symposium. So we, as we sort of said, we mainly concentrate on furniture and product design. We also have a part of our studio which concentrates on architecture and interior projects. And we were approached in 2012 by Ace Hotel to meet them in New York with a view to contemplating a project in London. So we went to meet them. We had this incredibly exciting couple of days in New York with them, where we got to understand what Ace is as a brand, and they're really intensely preoccupied with this idea of regenerating areas of cities and creating amenity and facilities for creative people to come together and work.
Yeah, they see the hotel as a creative cultural centre for wherever they land. And the guy who started it, a guy called Calderwood, he's on his business card, he used to have cultural engineer. He was a self-styled cultural engineer, and he really believed passionately that the hotels that he was producing were becoming sort of center points of the local community. So places where people could work, people could hang out, where local industry, local businesses would be a part of those hotels. So it wasn't just like a spaceship landing in some other place and, you know, we are one thing.
Which is what hotels were. And most hotels remain. They're a destination for sleeping, eating and sex, predominantly. That's not to say that ACE isn't. But what ACE also is something which is more than that. Anyway, just quickly, we had this amazing meeting with him. We were really excited to think about this place in London, even better that it was in Shoreditch because it was in our backyard. And we were absolutely distraught to discover where the site was, because it was this really disgusting, massive building on Shoreditch High Street, which took up 25% of Shoreditch High Street.
And that was the weird thing, it took up 25%, and we work in our studio 2 streets away, and we hadn't even really noticed it because it was so banal and so bland. And when they said that this is the building that we want you to turn into the Ace Hotel, there was a certain moment of
it was really depressing.
Horror. The worst thing is though that it used to look like the top image, the building at the top row there. That's an old music hall. That's the site of the. That was what was on the site of the what was called the Crown Plaza Hotel. I'm sure none of you ever went there.
But we had great hopes though, because every building they'd had until this point had some great sort of architectural merit or some incredibly important historical value. And so each time they'd set out to design a hotel, they'd had this incredible narrative and history, or something at least, to play with when they were developing the design. But we had absolutely nothing. The building presented us with absolutely nothing. So we did what we actually really enjoy doing, which was researching, and went right back into the sort of the history of Shoreditch, the development of the East, the history of the East of London, you know, the sort of the licentiousness of the area, you know,
Shoreditch was not nightclubs, dance halls and theatres, but it was also the home of furniture makers, shoe makers, rope makers, weavers. So it's a very sort of craft industrial base of London. So we've got to move on here. So the exterior was incredibly banal, and we weren't actually allowed to change it. The planners would not allow anything. So we decided to just at street level address the facade, which was, I can't remember how long it is, but it's like 150 meters long or something. So we looked at local vernacular. We looked at the classic sort of Shoreditch shop fronts, which were broken up into these smaller windows. Obviously, predominantly brick. Everything around there was built with brick. So that was our starting point for the facade.
One of the other key influences of our kind of research, I suppose, as well, was the way that the East has always been seen as a stopping point or a first arrival point for emigres, for people who come into London and starting a new life here, which we thought was a really beautiful metaphor for the hotel, where you can stay and have a cultural influence and maybe make something change. So we also referenced quite heavily early modernism and also later modernism in terms of the way the brick was used, for example, in Barbican, those sort of things, trying to give something which is essentially a transient experience, a sense of depth and texture and longevity.
And so we took the brick and the sort of this metal framing from the outside and brought it inside the building as well, which then divided up the spaces, so which divided up the lobby from the cafe and divided up the bar and so on. So we sort of brought the exterior inside. And other things that we felt were very important. In fact, Alvar Aalto, I think, once said that the door handle is the handshake of the building. So what we did for the front doors was we drew on the local bike culture of Shoreditch, and we took a casting, a bronze casting of a handlebar wrapped with the leather, and we turned that into the door handle of the front. And it was all made locally in London. This is a sort of layout of the ground floor. So you can see here how we brought this crystal facade back inside and used it all around to divide up the spaces.
That was the thing. inheriting a plan is a tricky thing, as you all know. And when we first saw the plan, it was very low ceiling, it was very convoluted, but actually we tried to work hard with the complexity of the plan to create shops within shops, areas within areas. Nothing is open to you particularly when you arrive. You need to discover everything. That was part of the appeal of the project. It would give these different areas completely different characteristics. And very often, each one of them would be, or one of the areas would be run by different people, different independent tradespeople.
But one of the key messages for ACE is that the lobby for all their hotels is a place for everyone. And it's a place for people to come and work. You don't have to be staying at the hotel. In fact, they encourage people to come in from the outside so that people feel like they can belong to the hotel even though that they're not staying in there. So we took that philosophy on, and so you have effectively a shop. This is obviously the front desk, but it's also a shop. Then you have this long table down the centre where people can come and work, and there's free Wi-Fi, and there's a coffee shop, and it becomes a sort of buzzy cultural centre to the hotel.
And it does sort of exude this idea of generosity, despite the fact that I think they make $3.6 million a year in coffee sales in New York. So it's kind of generosity with a twist.
I don't think they're doing that in Shoreditch yet, judging by that photo. The restaurant, which is called Hoi Polloi, referring to the Great Unwashed. We went into partnership again with a local business, Bistrotech Restaurants. It's a very difficult space. It was just like a sort of garage space, no real natural light. It was straight onto Shoreditch High Street, which is an incredibly busy, noisy street. So we had this idea to have the restaurant set back from the street, and the fact that you could come through a flower shop. We thought it would be nice to walk through a garden. Obviously, that was slightly ambitious. But a flower shop pretty much did the job. So you actually enter the restaurant through the flower shop. And that's looking back from the restaurant, and you can see that.
Again, that's a really important idea of not everything, but not being too overt, and just a sense of discovery. And actually, I think Alex described the restaurant as an egalitarian restaurant. It wasn't for everybody. And sort of materially, like the reception, we were incredibly at great pains to make sure the acoustics were right. And of course, as we enter our mid-40s, listening to other people on the other side of the table in the restaurant becomes increasingly difficult. So it was important that we did that. And so the whole of this room is lined with this sort of extruded timber cladding, which really helps the acoustics. And actually, all the public spaces in the restaurant and the ground floor, we've used that 70s material cork in the ceiling, which is a great way of sounding the space.
Yeah, we inherited, as we said at the beginning, not the most fascinating architectural structure. We had low ceilings and very, very hard surfaces, and so we did wherever we could, softened it. This also shows this brickwork patterns that we did. So all over the front we'd have these different brickwork patterns.
This again, I suppose, what the other thing about this project for us is the fact that when our client, who were ACE, actually were working on this project, they came and lived in the hotel because it was still trading as the Crown Plaza whilst we were developing it. And what that meant was we had the hugely energetic character of Alex in our studio pretty much every other day. So there was no escape. There was no escape from the energy and the passion of the client, and that's something which is very often overlooked and not really mentioned, I think, in terms of interior projects, the importance of the commissioner.
Yeah, I mean, he was a very ambitious and very perceptive client, which is not always the case. And the thing about, I mean, obviously, the key thing for most hotels is the bedrooms, and that's something that ACE have a very strong philosophy on, which we interpreted and inherited a lot of. The bottom photo on the left is a turntable and vinyl, and that's something that they put into pretty much every single room. There are 264 rooms at ACE, and so they had to find 264 turntables, and they put a random selection of records, which they say it gives that element of surprise for anyone entering. I mean, there are actually quite good records in most rooms, and then there's a few fillers as well. But also other rooms, there's a guitar, and in fact, I think it's about 40% of the rooms are guitars. I don't know whether it's to encourage musicians or to, I don't know, it must be quite annoying
So
if you're next door to someone who can't play. But the other thing is that we had this here, they labelled a curated shelf. So each room has a different collection of objects. Sometimes they're found objects, sometimes they're objects that have been bought from a local market, for, in this case, Brick Lane. There might be elements that you can buy from the shop downstairs. So every room, the plan is that every room is slightly different. And we work with APC on the quilts, and so, and every room has different artwork.
That's probably about it. Otherwise, I think there's a lot more to say, but maybe that'll come out in the panel discussion.
Yeah.
Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.